Hi, my name is Revi. Welcome back again in Revi English Zone. Today I will read a text and word, or the text and word, just like the last video, but a little bit different. Part 1. Read this text correctly. You don't have to be French to enjoy a decent red wine. Charles Jousselin de Grus used to tell his foreign guests whenever he entertained them in Paris. But you do have to be friends to recognize one, he said. He would add with a laugh. After a lifetime in the French diplomatic corps, the Count de Cruz lived with his wife in an elegant townhouse on Quai Folletin. He was a likable man, a cultivated, of course, with a well-deserved reputation as a generous host and an amusing raconteur. His evening guests were all European and all equally convinced that immigration was at the root of Euro problem. Charles de Cruz said nothing. He had always concealed his contempt for such ideas, and, in any case, he had never much care for these particular guests. The first of the red Bordeaux was being served with a veal, and one of the guests turned to Degrees. Come on, Charles, it is simple arithmetic, and nothing to do with race or color. You must had bags of experience of this sort of thing. What do you say? Yes, General Bax. Part 2. Read this word correctly. A pen, a postcard, a pencil, a passport, a pin, a passenger, a peer, a policeman, Peter, a newspaper, Poppy, a pepper pot, Paris, a spoon, empty, helpful, stop talking, upstairs, played, brushed, wait, cleaned, laughed, painted, snowed, pushed, shouted, closed, watched, wanted, filled, danced, landed, studied, walked, departed. Part 3. Read and compare between two words. Pin, bin, pen, pen, beer, bear, cap, cap, cup, pub, puppy, bubby, door, door, tarts, darts, cart, cart, ride, ride, train, drain, throng, drunk. Part 4. Read this long text correctly. She was walking lazily, for the fierce April sun was directly overhead. Her umbrella blocked its rays, but nothing blocked the heat. The sort of raw, wild heart that crushes you with its energy. A few buffalo were tethered under coconut, browsing the perched verge. Occasionally, a car went past, leaving its threat, leaving its street threats in the melting pitch like the wake of a ship at sea. Otherwise, it was quiet. She was no one. She was no one. In her long white Sunday dress, you might have taken Jeannie Narine for 14 or 15. In fact, she was 12, a happy, uncomplicated child with a nature as open as the red hibiscus that decorated her black, waist-length hair. Generation earlier, her family had come to Trinidad from India as overseers on the sugar plantation. Her father had some success through buying and clearing land around Rio Cristalino and planting it with coffee. On the dusty first 20 yards ahead of Jeannie, a car pulled up. She had noticed it cruise by once before, but she did not recognize it and could not make out the driver through its dark window, themselves as black as its gleaming paintwork as she walked past it. The driver glass started to open. "Hello, Ginny," she heard behind her. She paused and turned. A slight color rose beneath her dusky skin. Rafi Kirjani was tall and lean, and always well dressed. His black eye and large white teeth flashed in the sunlight as he spoke. Everyone in Rio Cristalino knew Rafi. Jeannie often heard her unmarried sister talk ruefully of him, of how if only their father were alive and they still had land, one of them might marry him, and they would squabble over who it might be and laugh at Ginny because she was too simple for any man to want. "How do you know my name, Refi?" she asked with a thrill. "How do you know mine? Everyone know your name. You're Mr. Kirjani's son." "Right. And where are you going, Ginny?" She hesitated and looked down at the ground again. "To chapel," she said with a faint smile. "But Ginny, good Hindus go to the temple." His rich culture was gently mocking as he added with a laugh. "Or maybe the temple pundits are in your taste in color." She blushed more deeply at the reference to Father Oliver. She did not know how to reply. It was true that she liked the young French priest with his funny accent and blue eye, but she had been going to the Catholic chapel for months before he arrived. She loved its cheerful hymn and its simple creed of one God so different from those miserable Hindu gods who squabble with each other like her sister at home. But added to that, the vulgarity of Rafi's remark bewildered her because his family were known for their breeding. People always said that Rafi would be a man of honor like his father. Rafi looked suddenly grave, his dark skin seemed even darker. It may be that he regarded his word. Possibly he saw the confusion in Ginny's wide brown eye. In any case, he did not wait for an answer. Can I offer you leave to chapel? In my 21st first birthday present, he asked. Putting his sunglasses back on, she noticed how thick their frame were. Real gold, she thought, like the big fat watch on his wrist. It's a Mercedes from Papa. Do you like it? He added nonchalantly. From the shade of her umbrella, Jenny peered up at a small lone cloud that hung motionless above them. The sun was beating down mercilessly, and there was an urge in the air, an overpowering sense of growth. With a handkerchief, she wiped the sweat from her forehead. Revi gave a tug at his collar. It's air conditioned, Jenny, and you won't be late for chapel. He continued, reading her mind. But chapel must have been the last thing on Rafi's mind with Ginny when Ginny, after a moment after a moment hesitation, accepted his offer, for he drove her instead to a quiet sugar field outside town, and there, with Mercedes concealed among sugar cans, he introduced himself to her. Ginny was in daze. Young as she was, she barely understood what was happening to her. The beat of calypso filled her eyes, her ears, and the sugar cane towered over her as the cold draught from the air conditioner played against her knees. Afterward, clutching the ragged flower that had been torn from her hair, she lay among the tall, sweet-smelling cane and sobbed until the brief tropical twilight turned to starry night. But she told no one, not even Father Oliver. 2 weeks later, the little market town of Rio Castellino was alive with gossip. Rafi Kirjani had been promised the hand of Sunita Morpalani. Like the Kirjanis, the Morpalanis were established Indian family, one of the wealthiest in the Caribbean. But while the Kirjanis was diplomats, the Morpalanis were a commercial family. They had made their fortune in retailing long before the collapse in oil price were emptied their customer pocket, and now Murpalani stores were scattered throughout Trinidad and some of Arab islands. Prudently they prudently they had diversified into banking and insurance, and as a result their influence was felt at the highest level. It was benevolent influence, of course, never abuse, for people always said that the Merpulani were a respectable family and well above reproach. They had houses in Port of Spain, Tobago, and Barbados, as well as in England and India, but their main residence was a magnificent, sprawling colonial-style mansion just to the north of Rio Cristalino. The arranged marriage would be a social event of the following years. When Ginny heard of Rafi's engagement, the loathing she had conceived for him grew into a sort of numb hatred. She was soon haunted by longing to repay that heartless, arrogant brute. She would give anything to humiliate him, to see that leering, conceited grin wiped from his face. But outwardly she was unmoved. On weekdays, she went to school, and on Sundays, she went still to Father Oliver afternoon service. Girl, you sure you do? You sure does have a lot to confess to that white. Her mother would say to her each time she came home late from chapel. He's not white, he's a man of God. That as may be, child, but don't forget, he does be a man first. The month passed, and she did not see Rafi again. And then it rained. Although August, the rain hardly stopped. It rattled persistently on the galvanized roof until you thought you would go mad with the noise. And if it stopped, the air was as sticky as treacle, and you pray for it to rain again. Then one day in October, toward the end of the wet season, when Ginny's family were celebrating her only brother's 18th birthday, something happened that she had been dreading for weeks. She was lying in the hammock on the balcony, playing with her 6 years old nephew Penny. Suddenly, Penny cried out, Ginny, why are you so fat? Throughout the little frame house, all celebration stopped on the balcony. Curious eyes were turned upon Ginny, and you could see what that boy meant. God have mercy on you. Reginald watched the shape of your belly, cried Mrs. Narine, exploding with indignation and pulling her daughter indoors, away from prying neighbors' ears. Her voice was loud and hard, and there was blackness in her eyes, like the blackness of the skies before thunder. How could she have been so blind? She cursed herself for it, and harsh question burst from her lips. The end. The end. Thank you for listening until the end. Please like and subscribe and comment. That will be helpful to me.